All right, let me do a video about, I recently, within the last few videos, I made a video about what I believe is the root cause of mental illness. And I think that's a really good video. I'm actually in the process of trying to edit that down to about 20 minutes and put it on my other channel, because I think it's a really important video, because I truly believe that is the root cause of mental illness, which basically the what I believe is the root cause of mental illness is chaos. They get you to believe on a subconscious level that everything is just chaos. There is no order. There is no balance. They've got you believing that nothing actually makes sense. And so, in my opinion, that it's almost like having a boat with no sails and no anchor. You're just going to float around and, zero control. You know what I mean? Like, if nothing makes sense, how are you going to control anything? How are you going to figure anything out? You need logic. You know what I mean? And so in that video, I was explaining how they get us to believe that everything is chaos. But what I want to kind of touch on in this video is why I believe that it's not chaos. There is order, there is balance, and things actually do make sense. But you got to realize that they created this world, this modern society, where, it seems like it is chaos. It seems like nothing makes sense. We see people getting away with a lot of things that are unfair. There's a lot of unfair things happening. There's a lot of good people getting screwed. There's a lot of, evil people getting over on everyone. And it's right in our face. You know what I mean? So we've got all these politicians who, they're openly corrupt, they're openly dishonest, they break all kinds of laws, all the insider trading, trading stocks with inside knowledge, they all do it. They wash money, they steal tax money. They're doing a whole bunch of literally illegal things. It's almost like a crime family. And the other thing is that it is backed by violence, just like a real mob is backed by violence. It's just that they've set it up to where, it doesn't seem that way. We are being so... But I tell you what, is a notification from Twitter, which I barely pay attention to it. But, they've created this society where they can get away with all this shit. And so, the logical conclusion that most people come to, and it's not just, they teach it to you in a lot of subtle ways. Watch my other video. I really break it down, and I break it down well. But, they really get a lot of us to believe that all is chaos. And let me tell you something. I was on the verge of picking up that philosophy myself. Watch my previous videos if you want all the details of how I ended up living in a car in Florida. But not too long ago, right before the whole COVID thing, I was living in New York City. I was living on the street, but I was doing caricature portraits in Central Park, and I was doing pretty good. My money was going up. I had really I was really getting my system dialed in, and I also had a couple of sketchbooks that I have had for most of my life that I had just been drawing in, and I had a bunch of drawings in my sketchbooks that if I would have just took the time to make some prints, I could have been making a lot more money. And so I was kind of really excited. I had just made it through another rough winter in 2019, and 2020 was off to a pretty good start. I was making pretty good money, and I was like, man, this is going to be my year, because I'm gonna make some prints in my other drawings. This way, while I'm doing the caricature portraits, I can just sell prints. You know, I don't even need to do the portrait. They'll just buy prints of my drawings. And so I'm a very creative person, and you know, I had a very nice little display up, and my little portraits were very popular in New York City, and I know my prints would have been too. And so I was just kind of waiting for the weather to warm up a little more, where my money would have gone way up, and I would have had more time to get the prints set up and all that. And then all of a sudden, this COVID thing happens, and I was like, you know, if you watch my previous videos, you'll see that this wouldn't be the first time where I had some really solid plans in place, and then some ridiculous outside thing that I have no control over swoops in and just screws my whole life up. And after going through that multiple times and being homeless due to it in a lot of ways, and then when it's looking like I'm gonna get off the street, you know, all of a sudden this ridiculousness happens, and I was like, dude, what the you know, how there's no sense to it, there's no logic to it. Every time I build something up, it gets wiped out. Like, what the I couldn't believe that COVID thing. I could not believe it. They shut the whole city down, and I'm like, dude, I was disgusted. I was so angry with God, with everything, with people. If you were one of my Facebook friends at that time, I was so nasty on Facebook. Like, friends of mine from high school were like, well, why do you complain so much? And I'm like, I wanted to punch them in their face, dude. I was like, you have no idea, motherfucker. You're sitting there in Florida, you sell weed for a living. This don't matter to you. They just wiped out the business that I've been building up for a decade, that I was finally about to take it to the next level. You know, you have no idea, bro. Like, it was not like a close friend from high school, but like a friend of a friend who I know he's been selling weed his whole life. And I'm like, this bitch has the audacity, been sitting in his air-conditioned apartment for 20 years straight just fucking selling weed. Like, who? I wanted to choke the motherfucker, you know what I mean? So, anyways, but I also understand that people don't want to go on Facebook every day and see me bitching and ranting and raving about how stupid everyone is for flushing the entire economy down the toilet over what seems like the flu. You know what I mean? But, man, I was just thinking to myself, like, does no one understand the economic impact of what they're doing right now? Like, what you're gonna stop everyone from working and then just send everyone $1,000 and put everyone on unemployment? I'm like, what the you know, who's in control here? These people are out of their minds. I mean, it was a very bad thing for society as a whole, that whole thing. And if you know anything, which I'm into science, I'm into biology, I've looked into viruses just out of my own curiosity, because I'm trying to figure out what it is. Is it a living organism, or what is it? It's this weird thing that just kind of copies itself. It's a very strange organism, viruses are, and they're all different. It's a very interesting thing, viruses. So I had already had some knowledge on viruses just out of my own curiosity. It's something I learned about. And so I knew enough to know that every precaution they put in place, rags over your face, 6 feet, I knew none of that matters. Dude, you know, you can't contain an outbreak. You can't contain an outbreak. It's that simple. That's a fact. There's no containing it. Once it's out, it's out. It's going to run its course. And so I'm sitting here thinking to myself, all of this, everything they're doing, makes no sense. There's no point to it. It's not going to stop anything. It's not going to slow anything down. Standing 6 feet apart and all this shit, none of it was going to make any kind of difference. And what's amazing is the doctors were all playing along with it as if it was going to make a difference. Now, to prove my point just real quick, and this is not what the video is going to be about, but if you look at a lab that works with viruses, the precautions that they take, it's not a paper mask and it's not 6 feet of distance. It's literally full-on biohazard suits with decontamination chambers and the precautions, because this is what it takes to contain a virus. Once it's out, it's out. And at that point, there's no stopping it. It's going to run its course. Now, there's an argument to be made, all these precautions they took, maybe they slowed it down. They probably didn't. My guess is they didn't slow it down one bit. But slowing it down doesn't serve any purpose. It just drags everything out. You got to let it run its course. The sooner it runs its course, the better. And so, you know, there's this analogy that just popped into my head, which is actually a really good analogy. And so there's this thing with when there's a storm coming, the herd of cows runs away from the storm because they don't want to deal with it. They just run away from it. What ends up happening is the storm catches up to them, and then they're running with the storm, and they end up being in the storm for longer than they would have had to deal with if they just sat still. What buffalo do when a storm is coming is they charge into it. And so when the storm is coming, they run into it. They go right through it. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of how I see that whole COVID thing. And then on top of that, everything they did economically with the stimulus checks. Look, I got my stimulus check. I was grateful for it. It was the first, when that stimulus check came, it was one of the happiest moments of my life, because I had spent the last, I think it was like 2 months. So when that thing hit New York, I didn't even plan on talking about this video, but when COVID hit New York City, they shut the whole city down. Nothing was even open except McDonald's. So I was grateful for that. So I could, but they wouldn't let me use the bathroom in there. So, but I was able to get my coffee in the morning, but I hardly had any money anyway. So what they did in New York City was, since all the schools were closed, they opened up all the schools and gave away all the school food every day. So, which was basically jail food. I never ate so bad in my life. I mean, you know, here's the thing with me. I live like a bum, but I eat like a king. I consider myself like, you know, I'm a foodie in a way. I'm a skinny person, but I really enjoy my food. You know what I mean? And I eat high quality food. That's the whole time I was homeless, I was eating like a king, dude. It's something I take very seriously, because the physical makeup of your body is made of what you eat. You know what I mean? So I don't buy generic anything. I don't eat at disreputable places. I eat at good places. I eat good food. And so when this whole thing happened, I ain't got no money now. I couldn't eat anything. I had no money. I didn't have enough money to eat. So I had to, what they did was they had us waiting in line to get food at the schools. And so I was eating basically the school food in New York. It's like jail food. It's a tuna sandwich. It's peanut butter and jelly. So for 2 months, I ate nothing but tuna sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly, an apple, cereal, like a little kid or like someone in jail. So this is what I had to do for 2 months. And I'll never forget, one time I was outside the coffee shop in Central Park. That was one of the few places that we could go charge our phones, because Starbucks was closed, everything was closed. But Le Pen Quitien, I think that's how you say it, that's the coffee shop in Central Park. They got outlets outside. So me and my evil twin, Ethan, I've mentioned him in previous videos, we were charging our phones there. That was one of our spots to charge anyways, but at this point, it was the only place we could charge. So anyways, I was there in the afternoon charging my phone, just sitting there with my school lunch and, eating some of it, what I could stomach. I don't like fish, but let me tell you something. When you're starving, I used to look forward to the tuna fish. I haven't eaten tuna fish since then, but when the only other options are fruit and peanut butter and jelly and cereal and fruit snacks and all this little bullshit, I would look forward to the tuna sandwich. It was like 2 days a week we would get a tuna sandwich. I couldn't wait to get at that tuna sandwich because it was like, and I don't even like fish. I don't like tuna fish. I don't like fish at all. But when you're starving, dude, tuna's pretty good. So I'm sitting there charging my phone with my trash food, about to eat something, and some guy's walking by, and he goes, "Yo, are you hungry?" I was starving. I was like, "Yeah, I'm hungry." And he's like, "Here." He hands me a Wendy's bag with a junior bacon cheeseburger, fries, and a Coke. And let me tell you something. I don't eat fast food. That was probably the last time I ate Wendy's. It was delicious. It was so good that I was like, thank God for this Wendy's right now, because for months I hadn't eaten anything but bullshit. You know what I mean? And another way I was getting food was I was never one to be eating in the soup kitchens. I had money. I was homeless, but I had money because I was doing the portraits. I was making money. So I didn't even. I had barely any experience with the soup kitchens, but this other homeless dude, Matt, I hope Matt is doing okay nowadays. I wonder whatever happened to Matt, but I met Matt at the coffee shop, and he was like, well, I'm going to the soup kitchen one of the days. I was like, dude, let me come with you, because I don't even know where they are, and I want to eat something different than tuna and peanut butter and jelly. So he showed me where all the soup kitchens were. I'll never forget it. For this spring, I was waiting in bread lines for food. I'll never forget it. It was unbelievable. And so then when the stimulus check came, I was so psyched. I went and got Lenny's, which is a really, not a really good sandwich place in New York. Lenny's in New York used to be really good. I'm telling you, like, some of the best sandwiches you'll ever eat. Lenny's in New York City. But then what happened was they got too successful. They opened too many spots, and the quality went way down. But it was still something I really enjoyed. So that first day when I got my stimulus, I went and got me some Lenny's. And I'll never forget it. I am not an outgoing, talkative person, but I was so psyched when I got into Lenny's, and the dude who made my sandwich 10 million times before, I always tipped, but I never really talked to him. For the first time, I was just like, dude, I was like in such a good mood that I was like small talking with him. You know what I mean? I was like, dude, what you been up to for the last 2 months and shit? You know what I mean? Like, I am not outgoing at all. I'm not the type to talk to the, people I don't really know. You know what I mean? But I was so psyched about getting that check and being able to eat again, and God, I was psyched. I'll never forget it. But so, anyways, I just told that the whole story. I wasn't even planning on telling it. But my point is that when all that happened, I was really starting to question, dude, why would God do this to me? What, I've been working my ass off. I sacrificed everything. I'm finally starting to build something up, and it looks to me like God just swiped everything out from under me once again. I was like, is there no order? Is it all just chaos? Because if there is a God, I can't imagine why this would have happened. You know what I mean? And I was really questioning it. And then what happened was, so another thing, everyone's telling me apply for unemployment. They're going to give it to you. You work on the street, but they're giving it to the street performers and the street artists. I said, they're not going to give it to me. Everyone's like, dude, just apply. What do you got to lose? I'm like, okay, I'll apply. I apply for it. And I called them like 3 or 4 times, never even got any kind of response. I was just like, whatever. I just went about my life, and next thing I know, I think it was June something, my stimulus check is running out. I'm scared. And all of a sudden, I wake up one day, and my phone had all these notifications from Cashapp. And I look at it, and the state of New York back paid me unemployment with an extra $500 a week back months from when I applied. And I was like, all of a sudden, I was down to maybe like $50 to my name. I wake up that morning thinking just another regular day. I'm going to go to the park and probably make $5 or $10 if I'm lucky doing the portraits because everything's dead. All of a sudden, I got $6,000. And to be honest, there was a part of me that was angry about it because I was thinking to myself, God just took everything from me. And now he just dumped $6,000 in my bank account. Like, are they playing with my emotions here? Like, what the, if God can give, which obviously he can, he just gave me $6,000. It's, this wasn't the exact thoughts going through my head. This was like subconscious thoughts running through my mind. Like, dude, if there is a God, he just took everything from me, starved me for months, brought my stress levels up through the roof. I mean, and now he just solved it all by just dumping $6,000. I'm like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? But it did kind of restore my faith in God because I was thinking to myself, like, there is someone out there kind of looking out for me. Without that unemployment, I would have been completely screwed. And let me tell you something. It changed my life because then I was like, wait a minute. Now I don't have to just sleep on the fucking sidewalk every day. I can get a vehicle to live in. And so I started looking on Craigslist for vehicles and stuff, and and then so I'm like, I got to get my license back. My license was expired, and so I I get a hold of the DMV in Manhattan. As it turns out, it's going to take me like 6 months to get my license back. Next thing I know, I'm like, my license was from Florida. I'm from New York originally, but then I lived in Florida. Then I went back in New York, and so my license expired in Florida. So I'm like, let me Google Florida and see. And also, I know that the COVID restrictions in Florida are like almost non-existent. So I Google what I got to do to reinstate my license, and my license was just expired. So I had to like redo my license. I Google it, and in Florida, it's just like, just go in there and pay $30 and they reinstate your license. In New York, I would have had to take the driving because my license had expired for more than 10 years. So in New York, I would have had to take the driving test. I would have had to borrow my cousin's car. I would have had to go through all this shit. And then I Google in Florida. Florida's just like, yeah, pay $30 and we'll give you your license back. I'm like, oh shit, I'm going back to Florida. And so that's what I did. I came down to Florida. I should do a whole video about it. It was such an experience, dude, taking that train down from New York. Let me tell you something. I had been in New York City for about a decade straight, barely outside Manhattan, and the Bronx is where I was at. And, so for about 10 years straight, for about 10 years straight, I had been living in the outskirts of Long Island, the outskirts of Queens, the Bronx, and Manhattan. So I had been within New York City's boundaries for like 10 years straight. And when I got on that train, and I was sitting under Penn Station waiting for that train to leave, and man, it was a weird feeling, dude. It all hit me at once, like all of a sudden. I was leaving New York City, man, and it was bittersweet, you know what I mean? And then once we got out of the city, dude, I hadn't really seen the sky in like 10 years. I had seen the sky from Manhattan, which you only see this much of the sky, you know what I mean? All of a sudden, we're coming out of New York into New Jersey, and all of a sudden there's all this marshland and woods and sky, and I was like in awe I hadn't been. If you look at Manhattan, like a helicopter picture of Manhattan, you never seen a more dense city with buildings densely packed together. When you're in there, the sky, it's just different. You know what I mean? So when we hit New Jersey, when we got out of New York City, I was like, dude, I was glued to that window of that train, just looking at the world again outside of New York City. I couldn't. It was so. It was very. It was just surreal. It was like, it was something else, man. And then we get so another strange thing. It was in October of 2020 when I'm heading back to Florida, man. And so then we get to Georgia the morning and we stop and I get out to smoke a cigarette and it's warm out and the sky's pink and I'm like, damn, I'm back in the South, bro. It was just so weird because October in New York, it's starting to get cold. All of a sudden, so I smoked a cigarette in Philly and then I think the next one I got to smoke was in Georgia. So in Philly, it was still cold. I'm outside smoking. Next thing I know, it's like 70 degrees. The sky's pink. It was like 6 a.m. in Georgia. And it was just so fucking weird, bro. And that humidity, that south, you know what I'm saying? Like the southeast weather, the jungle atmosphere of the southeast, like Georgia, Louisiana, Florida. It was just, I was like, it was just so fucking weird, man, after being in that northeast climate. And then we get to Florida and they dropped me off in Orlando and I had to take a bus back down to Tampa because I was coming back to Clearwater. Clearwater is really all I know in Florida. I went to high school and middle school around here and all that. So, and I'll never forget, man, this video, I didn't even really get to my points, but I'll never forget, I get off that train in Orlando and there's these dudes who, like, I had my bike, you know what I'm saying? So I get my bike off the train and the dudes controlling the bus or whatever, they're like, well, you can't take the bike on the train. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I paid for a train ticket to Tampa and the train stopped in Orlando and that ain't my fault. I paid. I'm like, go get your boss, go get the president. I don't give a fuck who you get. But my bike's going on that bus because I paid to get to Tampa and you ain't dropping me off in Orlando. I was fucking pissed. And they're like, well, we'll see. Maybe we can fit. We'll see. I'm like, I don't care what you do, bro. But I paid to get to Tampa and I was angry. But anyways, they ended up doing it. And so then the bus ride from Orlando to Tampa, man, I should do a video and show you all the pictures I took. It was just, the palm trees and the blue sky. It's like summer in Florida in October. It's like, I was just, man, I felt like I had escaped a war zone or something. You got to realize I had spent the last decade of my life sleeping on the sidewalk, you know what I mean, in New York City. And now all of a sudden I got money in my bank account and, I am not going to be sleeping outside in Florida. I'm going to rent a hotel. That's what I did. I ended up being stuck in that hotel for like 2 months though. That's how long it took me to find a vehicle that was worth buying, which was my CRV. But anyways, my point here is that was that whole experience with the whole COVID and all that. It really had me questioning whether there really is a God or if it is all just chaos. You know what I mean? My mind was completely blown by that entire situation because, up until that point in my life, I had been able to kind of make sense of everything. Like every bad thing that ever happened to me, I found, as it turned out, it was like I always figured out it always happened for a reason. You know what I mean? And now let me tell you something. I see the reasons now. It's my time being homeless was up. You know what's funny? When I got off, so I was on heroin from 2000. maybe late 2013 till about 2017. And then I was on Suboxone from 2017 to 2019. And I'm telling you, there was a shift. Once I got off Suboxone, a new destiny was set in motion, I believe. And that's how I ended up in Florida. And that's how I ended up on this timeline. If you don't know anything about timelines, look into quantum physics. But so, but I still now, what ended up happening was I stumbled into a lot of information which confirmed a lot of things that I had already figured out. I put all that stuff on Patreon. Make a long story short, I 1,000% believe that it's not chaos. Everything happens for a reason. There is balance. There is order. And so, anyways, let me watch this video and see if I want to put it up. I wasn't even planning on making that video, but this is it. This is what happens. I set out to make a video explaining to y'all why I believe that it's not chaos, why it's order, and I end up just telling some story that, I never really get to my point. You know what I mean? So let me see if I'm going to put this video up, but I still got to get that video out where I explain to y'all exactly why. Well, maybe in the next video, I'll pick it up right where I left off here. So, because it does, that story, there is a reason I told it. And because, it had me thinking, it had me believing in chaos for a second there. But so maybe I'll continue this in the next video. We'll see. So anyways, that's the end of this one. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for the subs, thanks for the likes, thanks for the tips, thanks for the channel members, and thanks for the Patreons especially. I appreciate every single one of y'all. If you want a response to your comment, try to get it in the first 30 comments. And yeah, I guess that's the end of this one. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you on the next one. Everybody have a good one.